Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my August 2025 bullet journal setup. How are we all doing today? I hope you guys are having an amazing day so far. I'm doing great because I think I may have filmed what could be my best or one of my best bullet journal themes of the entire year so far. Not to toot my own horn, but this video is going to be so much fun because I'm truly so excited about this theme and I cannot wait to show y'all the finished result. So to backstep a little bit and kind of explain my thought process behind this bullet journal theme as I start working on the art, which by the way, as I usually do, I'm using alcohol markers in a separate sketchbook and I'm going to put the art into my journal eventually later in this video. But I'm going to be drawing this jellyfish creature, this half lady, half mermaid, half jellyfish. You can't really have three halves, Sophie, but you get the picture. Like, it's kind of a mismatch of different fantastical creatures. And the art was inspired by these pictures here on the screen that I kind of combined and took inspiration from to create my own iteration here. Now, the concept for jellyfish for August was not original for me. In fact, you may have seen a jellyfish theme from me before. In my very first bullet journal ever in 2020, I did a jellyfish theme for August, and that year it was my absolute favorite theme that I made. I thought it was super colorful, super creative. I thought I had a lot of fun with it, and it's actually the only theme from my first bullet journal that made it into my undated bullet journal, which is a pre-made journal that I sell on my online shop, which is always linked down below if you're curious. But that just shows how much I really enjoyed the jellyfish theme, because even 4 or 5 years later when I started creating my product, I used a theme from the first year of journaling when my art was very mediocre, but I had so much love for it nonetheless. But now, 5 years later, it's 2025 and it's August again. I'm stating things that we all already know, but I wanted to do a jellyfish theme for August again to kind of, recreate my old theme, but with clearly a lot more detail, a lot more art, a lot more, flair to it. And I've also really been enjoying the past couple months making these like characters on my front covers. Like in June, I did this fantastical creature with like flames and horns coming out of her head. And then in July, I drew a recreation of Rapunzel from the movie Tangled from Disney. And now for August, I'm doing my 3rd month in a row where I'm drawing like a person or some kind of creature or character for my cover page rather than like an animal or a landscape or something like that. And I find that in the past, I've tended to like to switch up what I'm doing every single month. Like if one month I'm drawing a person, then next month I'm drawing a landscape, and the next month I'm doing scrapbooking. Like I like to change things up and keep things fresh. But as you guys all know, and as I've mentioned on this channel many times before this year, I have struggled with creative burnout and lack of inspiration recently. But since the start of summer, my past 3 themes, including this one, have all been really, really cool in my opinion, and I've really enjoyed making them. The common theme, of course, being that the cover pages are all these like female creatures or people with usually long hair, but alcohol marker drawings, and I like to practice with my character design and things like that. And it does make me think like why I don't draw people in my bullet journal more often, because obviously I've been enjoying it recently. It's what's been keeping me out of a creative slump these past couple of months. But also whenever I draw in my sketchbook that's not for my bullet journal, which doesn't happen often, but when it does, I am 9 times out of 10, actually 99 times out of 100, drawing some kind of person or character, whether it's fantastical, whether it's like a real still life of a person. Like I'm doing some form of a human body, right? And it's always my favorite thing to draw. Like I'll draw animals, I'll draw landscapes, whatever, but this like drawing people is my number one, and it always has been since I started getting into art, like when I was super young. And so it makes sense that something I would love to do is continue doing what I've always loved to do. But surprisingly, if you look back through my 5-6 years of bullet journaling, I really haven't drawn that many like people in my spreads. And so I'm really kind of leaning into that recently, at least so far this summer, and I'm hoping that maybe I continue the year with a lot more. I'm not going to make any, super deep promises or anything like that. I don't want to hold myself to something I'm going to change my mind on potentially next month, but I am in a period right now where I feel very inspired by all the spreads that I'm creating for my videos. I hope y'all are loving them too. And yeah, that's basically my rant there, is that Sophie needs to listen to her past self and just do what she likes to draw, which is people and creatures. That being said, however, I know that this is kind of a trust the process art piece right here. Number one, it is not beginner friendly. I like to make some, beginner friendly videos or give ideas for how you can recreate spreads of mine if you are a newbie. I won't lie, not only was this spread, or I guess not spread, like artwork, more difficult, at least for me, not only because I'm using shading and coloring and I'm trying to ombre blend both green and blue and make it look seamless, which on its own can be quite difficult, although alcohol markers do make it easier than water-based markers. But also, when I was finished with drawing all of the bubbles, the girl, the hair, the jellyfish on her head, or maybe she is the jellyfish, who knows, then I went in with a black marker and went in between literally every single blank space on this spread and colored it in with black. Was this incredibly tedious? Yeah, it was, because the raw footage for this video was 3 hours long and a lot of it was spent with these alcohol markers, but I won't lie, it was so worth it. My dad, when I showed him this theme, was asking me like, is it black paper that you drew on? And I was like, no, that's me coloring in the background. He was like, why did you do that? That takes so much time. I'm like, I know, but look how cool the result is, right? If I had drawn on black paper, I couldn't have used alcohol markers because it wouldn't have been able to show up, but I love alcohol markers for their smooth blending and their ability to layer and things like that, so I still used them, and I just went in with a mixture of either Sharpies or more black alcohol markers with like a brush tip to get in all those little crevices. And yes, it was tedious, but yes, it was so worth it. So although this is really not like beginner friendly, I won't say, I would encourage you, if you're inspired by it, to do something similar or maybe try to recreate it, simply because I don't want to limit anybody, and I also think you guys can definitely push yourselves. If you want to do a simpler version of this, or even, you know, try the whole thing, whatever, or do something more impressive. Like, I love to see you guys show me up in your artwork. But yeah, although this is definitely not the easiest thing I've ever drawn in my entire life, and I apologize if it looks quite complicated, if you break it down into simple steps, it's just drawing something with bright colors and then putting a black background on it, and I bet you that you can probably do some sort of recreation of this in your own bullet journal or sketchbook if you wanted to. So I highly encourage it. And if you do post any recreations on Instagram or TikTok, tag me at the Mango Studio, because I would love to see it. All right, so an hour out of my life later, we finally have the cover page art done, so it's time to actually put it into my bullet journal. Now, here's the thing, right? I draw in this sketchbook, which is very close to an A5 size journal, but it's not exactly the same size. And so after peeling off like the perforated dots off of the actual artwork, I realized that this is a little skinnier than the actual spread, and I had to cut off the edges anyway because I had some uneven bits to them. So I was debating whether I wanted to cut this small enough to fit in the page itself with a margin around all 4 sides, or if I wanted the art to completely cover the entire spread. And eventually I went with the second option, but I had to kind of cover the parts of the white page that would be visible and not covered by the piece of artwork. So I just grabbed a normal black water-based marker from Tombow and only colored in on those little edges that would possibly peek out from behind the artwork. I didn't want to cover the entire spread because if it was too saturated, it may have ghosted through to the back. But I tried to be super light with this and double check that it only, you know, made a mark on the front, and that was the case, so thank goodness. And then whenever I glue on the artwork on top of it, because it's black on black, you literally cannot even tell where the seam is between the actual end of the page and the end of the artwork. So if you blur your eyes especially, it looks pretty natural to me, at least I think so. It looks like I almost just drew the jellyfish directly into my bullet journal and then colored around it. But of course, if you know anything about alcohol markers, I couldn't have done that because alcohol markers will bleed through legitimately any piece of paper. So it would have made the spread behind this one completely unusable. But I can use some secret tricks that you guys, you know, see in my videos to make the illusion of drawing directly in my journal, and I think it looks really good. Now on the left side here, I'm going to be doing a quote page. I brought back quote pages last month for July. It's one of those spreads that I really never use anymore because they're virtually like unproductive. There's no reason behind them except for maybe a nice reminder to yourself, but there's no like planning element or, you know, like a calendar or a tracker would. And so in past years, I really have just stopped using them. But last month I brought it back because I had an extra spread to use, and I really enjoyed having a font or actually combinations of fonts, catering them to match the cover page and try to emulate that same art style, the same design on the left without actually drawing the exact same thing twice. So this quote page is about jellyfish. I found 2 different poems on Pinterest and kind of combined the 2. So the quote itself says, "A magnetic storm brews, electricity flowing, nerves to skin, powerful enough to drown you." And like I said, it's a combination of 2 different poems. Doesn't have any true meaning and like a good reminder for me. No, not really. It was just like pretty words that had to do with jellyfish. So, you know, I put them on the left there, but I think it's really cool because like I said, they match. Like I did ombre for the words powerful enough that kind of looks like the ombre on the mermaid / jellyfish creature's skin, which by the way, I would love to name this girl and I don't have any ideas for it. So if you have any ideas for the creature's name or this beautiful lady's name, drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear suggestions. But But anyway, I also wanted to add some black into the quote page to match the black background on the right, and then some bubbles, some very elongated calligraphy with the words electricity flowing. And you'll actually see this on the next couple of pages, but I really tried to lean into a very dramatized calligraphy style. It's actually more monoline, to be honest, but cursive calligraphy style for the headers in this setup, just because it's something I haven't done in a while and I wanted to. So literally no actual reason, it's just a change of pace. Alrighty, so we are back into my sketchbook for the next and final piece of artwork that I'm going to be making for this entire setup. And we're going to be doing jellyfish yet again, but this time they have no person, it's just jellyfish. And this is a definitely weird shape. I had to do some measuring and some math to get what I wanted to fit in my sketchbook pages. So it does make no sense to you right now, and I do understand that, but just give me time, trust me, okay? It will come together in just a few minutes and I'll show you how it fits on the spread. But in the meantime, I'm doing the exact same art style as I did on the first page. So I'm using a teal fine liner to do the actual artwork. Usually I would use a black fine liner and then go over with all the art, but since I was doing a very kind of monotoned or monochrome look here, like the greens and the blues are technically different markers, but they blend so well together that it feels like it's just one main color we're using for the month of August. And I also thought that with like the neon effect or the glowing effect of these sea creatures under like the deep dark waters, I didn't think that there needed to be any like serious contrast or any serious black that was dividing up the jellyfish themselves, like for example from the top or the head question mark from like the stringy tail bits. Obviously I'm not a biologist, I don't know the proper names of these marine animals, but yeah, I didn't think there needed to be a lot of contrast here. So I basically just used the skinny end of a water-based fine liner that I had. Actually it's the, what is it called? I think I showed the pen at the very beginning of the video, but anyway, it's a teal pen. That's what I'm saying. So it's not black line art. The jellyfish are done in the light blue, the same color as the actual bubbles around them, and then they're also green tips. They kind of mimic the hair of the girl on the front cover. Because she is part mermaid, part jellyfish, I felt like the tentacles that, are they tentacles? I don't know. Whatever they're called, the little string bits that are her hair are also the parts of the jellyfish that sting you. Wait, I should look this up. Give me 10 seconds. Okay, I'm an adult, so I Googled it, and apparently the jellyfish's body is composed of a bell, oral arms, and tentacles. So the oral arms and tentacles are like the bits that are coming down, and then the bell is what I called like the head of the jellyfish earlier. So the big like blobby bit at the top. Anyway, all that to say, it seems more put together when it's done with teal liner. I mean, honestly, it doesn't make that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things. It really doesn't. I'm just trying to justify my reasons for changing my pen here, which is such a small and futile thing, but I thought it made a little bit of a improvement to the whole design. So like I said earlier, I know that this art piece shape-wise makes no sense to you, but just give me a second to kind of figure this out on camera and you will see my thought process here. So I had two different pieces, and when I sketched them out originally before I even started filming, I made them the same height, like on the shorter bits. I know the left one has a bit of like blobby extra, but the point is here, I'm going to be cutting a horizontal Dutch store into the spread itself, which means I'm going to be cutting horizontally across the page to almost make this miniature page so I can flip back and forth, and then I'll use the same artwork across the two different different pages. That way I don't have to make new artwork, but I still have space to plan out what could be made on 2 different spreads, if that makes sense. I feel like I explained that very poorly, but you get the picture. You're actually watching me do it. So on the left side, I have that little extra bulbous bit with the black artwork coming down further because I wanted space for that jellyfish to come down. And then on the right, I'm just going to continue that piece all the way across. And then I'll cut up a little bit of the second piece. I'm not going to use all of it because I didn't have room for all of it, but that's what I'm going to be using for the little right bit. And then I will cut around everything and make it fit the shape of the journal itself. So essentially, I have one big black border here that covers the entire top of the journal. I just made it on 2 different strips of artwork because it couldn't all fit like all the way across in my sketchbook. Now, because I was trying to align 2 different pieces of artwork that weren't aligned in my sketchbook, there is like a definitive mark and you can kind of tell where the 2 pieces are lined up, especially because there's one jellyfish, the second one, if you're looking left to right, that technically swims across both sections of the art, and the tentacles don't completely match up because I was genuinely just eyeballing it whenever I sketched them out. Like, it was the left half of the smaller piece and the right part of the bigger piece, and I was just guessing to try to make sure that they would line up. So honestly, because it was just eyeball work, not half bad to try to get those 2 pieces to line up properly. It's not perfect, but I'm not mad about it because I really think that this spread in general looks really, really good. Moving on to the bottom half, this first half of the Dutch store is going to be a calendar spread, and you can already see that I'm using water-based markers to draw each of the days of the month individually. I like to do this technique sometimes because instead of drawing just one big grid, which is, you know, useful and helpful, this allows so much more color to come from the spread because I'm literally covering half of the white space with just little miniature boxes for each day of the week in the same colors that I used to draw the jellyfish. Now, these markers are water-based markers, not alcohol-based markers, so they don't bleed through or anything, but I looked through my collection and got markers in the exact same swatches, so it's almost like the same markers are used down here. And when I'm done drawing all of the boxes, you can see that it's just saturated and bright and colorful and just the vibe that I wanted for the end of summer. When I did my theme in 2020, I used more of a light blue theme, and I still had lots of color, I believe. I still used very similar techniques. I mean, obviously, like I said, things change, but as a whole, I'm using a calendar spread, I'm using a quote page, things like that. I'm using ombre. It's so funny how things like stick around amidst all the change in the past 5 years. But I feel like this spread, it just really pops because of the satisfying grid of interlocking, almost like a checkerboard style between the light blue and the light green. And again, it matches the colors from above. On the very left, I wanted to add a to-do list section because August is actually a very big month for me. It's the last month of summer, as we all know, because at the very end of August, I'm going to be going back to college for my junior year, which is insane that I'm saying that. I'm already an upperclassman, which is incredibly wild. I also have a new apartment that I'm moving into. For the past 2 years, I've lived in a dorm, and now I'm moving into an apartment with some roommates, and I'm incredibly excited to decorate my own space. You guys will definitely see a stationery organization video and things like that coming in the next month or so. But basically what I'm trying to say here is the end of August is going to be so hectic with moving and school starting again and things like that. So I wanted to have a big calendar for all of my dates, all of my events, all of my things going on. And then also just a little space for to-do list for those things that I can't quite put a date on, but needs to happen before the end of the month. So that's what the first page is. On the second half of the Dutch store, which as you can see uses the same art from above, but happens to be another page. That's the beauty of these Dutch store things. I'm having my tracker spread on the left, so I have 6 habits that I'm going to be tracking in the month of August, bringing them back. I really haven't used habit trackers religiously since I'd say April. I had a few in June, but there's only like 2, and I think since April I really haven't used many at all. So bringing them back, trying to get back into routine with the new semester starting again. And then on the right side I have a huge brain dump. So again, moving, college starting. Although I had that to-do list spread on the first page, I wanted even more space to just brain dump all of my thoughts, all of my need to get done stuff, any furniture I'm still trying to acquire for my apartment, any, tasks that I need to get done. Like, I just wanted ample space to do planning if I needed to. And brain dumps are also one of those spreads that I used to use a lot and don't anymore. So a very simple callback, because it's really a very simple spread, just a lot of open space for my future planning, but I'm happy with it. I like it. I hope y'all like it too. And you'll get some good inspiration from this last couple minutes of the setup. All right, I yapped your ear off as always, but this is the end of the setup. I hope y'all enjoy it. Like I said, I think this is legitimately one of my best themes of the year. This competes with January's snake theme and June's porn girl theme. That's like a weird way to put it. But let me know in the comments which of those 3 you prefer, or if y'all enjoyed. As always, subscribe. I post new bullet journal videos every single Saturday, and I will hopefully see you next week for a new one. Goodbye.